Mark Patterson coming up just a little bit late from the dungeon. Welcome in. Off turf tonight at Mountain. It was dry most of the day, but rained last night. So we're off turf. That Mountain Main is muddy. It is muddy, and that should benefit Change at Jamaica and race number 3. It might seem on the surface of things at first blush to maybe hurt Crafty Conquest in race number 7. I'm not so sure. Crafty Conquest can't win anyways, though, whatever the footing. Off turf conditions created quite a wagering opportunity in yesterday's 4th race, but also stirred some controversy via Mountaineers taking off the turf horizontal wagering policies. We'll get into that a little bit later. Hopefully you were around to capitalize on what was probably the most overlaid 2-to-1 shot in the history of horse racing. And that off grass race yesterday was just incredible. The horse that they favored and the horse that was not favored, and created a lot of controversy because Mountaineers is one of the tracks that does not pay at all in the last leg of a horizontal race, leg, whenever the race comes off the turf. Checked on that for sure today. Some of you knew it already, and I checked it out with Tim Slyman, a good friend of mine, and well-respected former Mutuals director at Mountaineer. How many minutes we got? We got like 10 minutes to post. So let's look at the opener, 1 mile. This was, I think, always scheduled for dirt. Never 3 life, $4,000 claimers. You got to feel the 6, and I see Silva's got a recent buy-in here. Horse named Pushing Through gets this horse from Team Asmussen off 2 straight wins. It's not that unusual to see a big barn 1-0 unload a horse that wins a couple of conditions like that, non-life conditions, because to them, unless the runner's an up-and-comer, the horse is worth less with those conditions torched. It is kind of curious, though, the way Pushing Through has been unloaded, sold for $200,000 at auction, yet unloaded for $30,000 via the claim box, second time at the post, and then wins for 10. And again, not unusual to see a horse win a maiden claimer and drop down in price for the number 2, that sharp management. But still, another drop down to $5,000. Another attempt to unload Pushing Through. And then Pushing Through is sold in the aftermath of that, and now runs for Juan Pablo Silva, who drops the horse even further down to $4,000. So it seems like they can't move this runner down the ladder fast enough or get rid of her enough times Pushing Through. But again, from the managerial sense with these big barns, it does. I conform to logic there, because you break maiden for 10, next time you're in for 5. And with those 2 conditions gone, Steve Asmussen probably needs the room in his barn. And he knows this is not a natural born rule beater off those 2 sub-50 buyers. So Pushing Through, first time to the post for Juan Pablo. I noticed on the Thistledown charts a couple of days back that Juan Pablo won a race at Thistledown, I think a non-life race with another horse that he bought from Asmussen. This one did not merit, I guess, a field trip to Thistledown. And some of the horses that he likes, when he buys them, when he lays his hands on them, these days it seems like Thistledown is increasingly an option, which is not something he did forever. And I was thinking that's because Thistledown's a HISA track. But one's not afraid to run up there and has been running some of his private buys up there. I don't know if it's a negative or not that he didn't give Pushing Through a shot to run in Cleveland. Pushing Through is in really easy here off those 2 straight Louisiana Downs wins. And what really jumps out, and I don't think a mile's going to be an issue for a horse that wins smartly last time at 7/8. In fact, comes from last to first at 7/8. But then you've also got the speed element. Went gate to wire the time before, led at all calls. And man alive, there was just no speed in here at all. And this is the only stretch out horse in the field and should stroll to the lead, because these aren't only a bunch of round horses against a sharp recent sprinter and Pushing Through, who has displayed speed to get the lead at a sprint distance. But they're horses that drop back and want to come from off the pace. So he could have a cakewalk. She could have a cakewalk. Just waltzing to the lead, maybe 25 seconds, 25 and change, something ridiculous out there, if Pushing Through is amenable and rateable there. So you're not going to get any push to bet against this horse from me. But if the filly that they wanted to unload ever since she was bought for $200,000 there in various ways at various junctures, she's not okay off the private sale, then we can look at some other options here, because that's what we do. It is 8 minutes to post. We got a lot of time. I guess I didn't really come up late, did I? On the inside, Hyper Awakening, Hyper Awakening. Julie Mathis horse, who tuned up a couple of times going short, then got back out to the route game. I don't think those were designed preps, though, because Hyper Awakening, the Mountaineer win was at 5.5 furlongs, so this horse can sprint. And so many times, horses that can come with a late move and run first or second at a sprint distance don't really want to sustain that at a route of ground. They really, really don't. Hyper Awakening made a stout turn move last time and then lost ground steadily to the wire. Now, the winner came up huge there. Did Handle on You, but Handle on You is not that great on paper. So I'm not sure you're supposed to lose to her by 6.5 lengths. Now, do you really want 3-1 on a horse that was 82-1 last time? And that would be Hyper Awakening, guys. And I'm a little skeptical of this horse's stamina when it comes to the route distance. Number 2, Pearl Magic. There's Pearl Magic on the paddock cam there. Pearl Magic was claimed for $5,000 at Mahoning on February the 16th. I think that was a bad idea right from the jump because Pearl Magic holds the ignominious distinction. And I well remember this. I didn't bet on her. In fact, I tried to beat her, but didn't have the right horse to do it. She was beaten at 1-10 2 days before Christmas. Ho, 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 huh? Merry Christmas to the chalk eaters. It's 1-10. And she managed to lose. I don't know if she redeemed herself or not. 2 times later, she wins at even money there. This Pearl Magic. But it's always a little bit ominous to me when a horse loses that low at 1-10, you know? And Pearl Magic hasn't done a lot since being claimed there. Just the one decent effort, first off the claim. And then has seriously regressed since then. Pearl Magic. This is a very obscure outfit that I think won with like an 80-1 shot, or 90-1 shot. Year before last, was it? Or was it early last year? I think it was year before last. And it might have been the nightcap. A front-running win going a route of ground. Just doesn't win that often, this outfit. Cohart, number 4. Not going to get much setup here. Boy, Silva's got it covered. Cohart's got to drop back and try to come late. And you can bet pushing through under the aggressive McGraw is almost certainly going to set the pace here, huh? And a soft pace it should be. Cohart with a romping win and a decent number to break maiden all the way back in October. There was nobody behind her, though, and I guess that was something that didn't bode well because she's only won 1 time since then, and that was not a fast win. And she was supposed to do that at 2-1 back in December. This is the kind of horse, if you look at that 2 life win and forget the romping maiden win, then you're going to think she's going to be hard-pressed to get past the next condition, the number 3s, because these are built-in class hikes at a track like Mountaineer. Cohart, you know, some of her mild late runs I like better than others. Jay Rivers was pretty tough on June the 22nd and came back to win on a pretty steep class raise and had allowance on form over the cold weather months in Austin Town. But I don't want to cherry pick 1 or 2 races on Cohart because I don't like her much. She's just not a lot of horse, Cohart. Now, she could clunk up for a piece. She probably will, to be honest about it. A Loper was also in that Jay Rivers race and, in fact, beat Cohart by about 1 3/4 lengths and then comes back next time. To not duplicate that, really, not really, because all of a sudden she's Little Miss Popular and she's bet 5-2, despite that desultory lifetime record. Even now she's only 2 for 42. But she began to fall apart inside the quarter pole there on July the 1st. Horses get that kind of record, just 2 for 42, because they can't finish and they don't have heart or stamina. Most recently, though, and this should boost the price on a Loper even more than it is right now off that 14-length loss. That was a bad race. That's why she was 8-5. They made a crossover move to run non-winners in 12 months or so, which can be softer than even a non-life race of this ilk. And that one was. Those were just hideous horses in there. And a Loper is bet 8-5. She'll never be 8-5 again in her life or anywhere close to that. But it wasn't the send job from the inside that backfired on her. It was a negative rail. It was no good down in there. So you can throw that race out if you like her otherwise. And you probably should for a piece. I can't like her to win it all with that 2 for 42 record. Plus, you got the elephant in the middle of the living room. And number 3 pushing through, who's 3-2 right now, and probably going to go lower. But I think a Loper's most recent race is a pitch. I think you can safely disregard that and look at the rest of her form. Is that Mountain Maine close to the good stage of drying, guys? I can't tell on my computer monitor. And I put it up in the chat where MZ says, good evening. I have trouble with Chucktown shippers. Talking cool there, the house that Speed built. But that one in the second sure looks good. Yeah, if that horse loses, there ought to be a freaking investigation. When that race comes off the turf, I think the over-under on margin of victory there is about 12 lengths for skis, whatever kind of music, in the second race, that inside horse. But that's not going to be news to anybody. That horse, and I've missed a couple of these calls lately. They're no fault of my own. I got a lot of expertise when it comes to what the public's going to do with the windows at Mountaineer. I did their morning line, 40,000 races, like 35 freaking years. But some of the stuff they do now mystifies me, like that off-turf race last night. Just absolutely shocked me for Lord Ante, the 5H turf specialist. Even stay in the paddock and run instead of go back to the barn. Much less end up favorite. Is Man on the Moon, was that the winner's name? Yeah, Man on the Moon. I paid 2-1 and should have been. Really, literally should have been 2-5. But I can tell you, the one horse in race number 2 is going to be no higher than 1-5 and may well be 1-10. Very possibly 1-10 there in race number 2. So if you want to jump on that train, you better do it horizontally unless you have a strong opinion about who might be second in the second race. And I'm not sure that I do as far as who might be second in race number 2 there. Got a couple of ideas, but since I can't narrow it down to one cold punch exacta, given how short Sky's music's going to be in the pools there, I'm not thinking vertically. I would be thinking more in terms of daily doubles here. And what's that going to be paying? If we're talking about a 3 and a 1, what's that, like $6, $5, maybe something like that? I should check it out, correct? Yeah, I should. So we will do that. Let's check that double out. And they can still unload on it later. $11. That, my friends, is an illusion. $11 on the daily double ticket with the 3 and 1. Get out of here. There's no way in the world they're going to let you turn that Mortal Lock in race number 2, Ski's music, into a 9-2 shot simply by taming her with the obvious speed and certain shock in the opener. It's not going to work like that. Nonetheless, I'm going to think about a daily double ticket there. Welcome in, guys. Much appreciate your attendance. And we'll go back and forth as the evening develops. So I'm going to split this in just for now and change the screen over to my So Cool logo with 2 mean horses facing each other. I've explained to you guys why I dubbed this whole thing the dungeon, right? Maybe I'll do it again later. But for now, I'm going to contemplate maybe a daily double bet. Pretty plain to see right there in pushing through's action, why they couldn't wait to unload that $200,000 purchase for 30 at the claim box. And then Asmussen, every time she won, he dropped her down and then finally just sells her right out the door on the heels of 2 straight wins. She was purchased as a yearling for that big bucks money. And I bet they didn't know that she travels so wide in front and wheels that left leg like that. It's ugly. And there ain't much future in it, guys. If she can't run a first quarter in even 25 flat to establish the lead, then shame on her. She deserved what she got there. I was tempted after watching the race to credit Tapara for a heads up ride on Hyper Awakening. A lot of jocks won't do that and go up and join the pace no matter how slow it is proceeding with a horse that usually runs from way back. But it's almost like she dragged him up there because the pace was so pedestrian. Hyper Awakening, she'll never be in front again in her entire career. But tonight was the night, because this race, as it turns out, was that lacking in speed, because of the funky moving, pushing through is that utterly lacking in talent. Watch the head on and see how she wheels that left front leg. And she's wide in front anyways, like she's on ice and unsure of herself. Probably some infirmities on top of the ugly moving thing. And I guess that's why she didn't get a field trip to Thistledown, as a couple of horses purchased from the same load did earn. And in fact, go over there and win for Juan Pablo. Second race was lined up to be 1 mile on the turf. Instead, it's a mile on a muddy mountain main. This is a West Virginia bred filly and mare race. These either have never won 4 or they got to run for the $20,000 tag. So we are reduced to 6. I think we got 6 in here, right? Number 1, Sky's Music. Sky's Music was actually second at a stakes race there last season. Pretty fast stakes, too. She ran a 74 Beyer. That's good for West Virginia bred filly. So she loses her next one at 2-5 when she reverts to 2-life competition. But then after getting freshened, would come back and mop up on the next 2 conditions, the 2-life and the 3-life. And they liked her so much at the time, they even went outside her gender to run against the guys for 4-life condition. And she tried bravely there. Boy, she ran big. And a mile and a 16th looks like a new element for her. That's a 3-turn journey. It's about a lap and a half at Charlestown there. So she showed some stamina there too. And against the boys, she's not been favored since. So she's in tough, including in a stakes there. Her most recent race is okay. Maybe not vintage Sky's Music, but she was 4th. And the winner of that, I think, an 8-time victor in her career, and certainly way tougher. And that's just the thing, guys. It ain't rocket science. Charlestown's West Virginia breds, especially the non-claimers, are just mountains above the northern West Virginia breds. There's just no comparison. So she had me at Charlestown. I mean, look at the disparity, her humongous advantage in speed figs and everything else. Plus, I think a few of these don't even want to run on dirt anymore, or maybe would prefer to go short on dirt. If you're going to try and beat her, and I really wouldn't do that, guys. You might want to look at somebody who's got more speed than her, because sometimes short chalks lose because somebody else exploits the race flow to a greater extent. There's no speed in here. And a horse that might set the pace is Suffering Succotash. The Suffering Succotash is an interesting case. She's one of the last of the Mohicans, the Mawkins, the preeminent northern West Virginia sire of state-restricted winners, Mawkin, the late Mawkin. They usually don't want to run long, and they can't pass anybody, the Mawkins. Suffering Succotash, though, I think won a couple of allowance races at around on dirt outside the West Virginia Red program in 2025, or maybe 2024. She did that, and she did it twice at long odds, and kind of made Thomas Martinez a cult figure after he bought her from Mike Baird there. And Suffering Succotash is one of those horses that used to do either or, but the older they get, these 50-50 runners who can do turf or dirt, it seems like they get picky and they don't want to run on dirt anymore. It happens all the time. And you can see where she loses by 19 last time at a contending price, 9-2. And I'm looking back and her send-off races last year, both on dirt, and she loses them by like 54, 55 total lengths. So will she still run on dirt? I don't know. But she used to. And she is the speed of this race, is Suffering Succotash, for sure. She should be the speed anyways. Should stroll right to the lead unless the one does it on class alone and the jock wants to capitalize on that post position, which is possible, I guess. And then you come to another possibility for second, because I think the win slot here is beyond the hopes and dreams of any connections who weren't named Tim Collins in here. And what a break Tim gets when this race comes off the turf, because I'm going to tell you, she ain't bred for grass. I don't think my man was going to find another Rip Thorn. His other Charlestown horse that turned out to like turf a lot. 9-5 right now. Yeah, she's going to be 1-10 or maybe 1-5. So if we're looking for who might run second to her, a lot of tickets will have My Lucky Day, number 5. My Lucky Day actually wins last time on dirt. I'm a little bit surprised at a couple of her dirt numbers. She did not used to do this well on dirt, to run high 50s and a 60 on the Beyer scale. And the horse that trounced her on June 29th, and she was second, who's a monster. Lord knows how good she is. That's a silver runner who was left 3 fields, including a 4-life allowance in Ohio, since shipping eastward, back on track there. So My Lucky Day, it was kind of a breakthrough effort for her when it comes to dirt. And then she follows that up with an outright dirt win a couple of times later. Now, she had the bias in her favor. It was better out wide, and she circled it, but she did so with authority. Now, I would keep in mind that was a 6-furlong race. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're going to look and see where she wins 2 in a row on 7.5 on turf. That doesn't necessarily translate to any burning desire to go 2 turns on dirt, though. Don't mix apples and oranges here. You can't add 1 and 1 and get 3. I'm not sure that she's not going to be better if it comes to dirt, sprinting, than routing. But just to complicate things a little bit further, I think it's really obvious that she's better on turf than she is on dirt. When I saw Juan Pablo at the grocery store last week, I said to him, nice claim, My Lucky Day. Well conceived, my man. When he took her, he knows she's eligible for number 2 life in open company. She's probably going to lose first time back there. And he wants in the worst way to get her back on grass, because it's what she does. And I said, man, where do you get her back on the grass? Because it's what she does better, right? Off 2 really good dirt efforts out of her last 3. So I think her stock definitely goes down when this race flips over to dirt, except still a big chance to run second in here, I think, My Lucky Day. And she's going to be the most popular exacta punch, at 1 and 5, I would say. Exhilarating Purpose. I think she's won more times over the mountain Maine than anybody in here, maybe with the exception of Suffering Succotash. Suffering Succotash, I think, would take that cake. Exhilarating Purpose just didn't want to be a racehorse anymore from the looks of her 2 return tries there. So she would have to wake up and establish some better form this year. I've seen some good runs from her that would put her second in here. Yeah, my man Kenny said 3 should lead on the stretch. Yes, possible. But I think Suffering Succotash or Skis Music is going to want to hail her pretty quickly. She used the grain in her favor on July the 15th. The track was better out there, and she learned to pass horses on the fly. I'm not sure she's really sincere about it. I think she's grossly outclassed here, and I wouldn't like her at all going around the ground. Now, she might be the speed. Suffering Succotash, I think, would work away from her. If the one horse is rated and doesn't just blow this whole thing up about halfway down the backstretch, I think Suffering Succotash could just torture, and eventually race Good Holiday right into the ground through the mid stages. What if Tim Collins really wanted to try turf with Skis Music, who's got no grass pedigree whatsoever? Or was maybe looking at the advanced weather forecast. They did call for some rain that we didn't get last night. If he did, then kudos to my man, Tim Collins, who's a nice guy, a great guy. We'll talk about the Lord too, which isn't really my style, but I liked him, so I tolerated it. Real gentleman, always concludes his dealings with you with God bless. And he's best known in these parts for bringing Rip Thorne up from Charlestown, who turned into a turf monster. And I think, in fact, might have won an open allowance or two at the apex of his turf exploits. I think Suffering Succotash is retired as a dirt horse. I really do. Well, the 1.5 exact is going to be, oh man, alive, 360, something like that. I don't think they didn't let you turn Ski's music into an even money shot or a 6-5 shot by putting My Lucky Day on the bottom half of an exacta with her. And I don't give the 5 any chance at all to beat Ski's music because I don't think My Lucky Day is nearly as good on dirt as on turf. My Lucky Day used the grain last time. The anti-rail thing to flatter her a bit. And I'm just a little bit iffy about her 2-turn stamina on dirt. On dirt, I tell you, not turf, on dirt. Like I said, and you guys don't need me to hold your hand to this sort of reasoning. If the one loses this race, there should be some kind of an investigation. I'm seeing 3-5 right now, which would be more than fair on Ski's music. But that's an illusion, I think. I really do. And just because I've been shocked a couple of times, several times, the last couple of days by where the late money should have landed but didn't, I'm still hesitant to get suckered in and bet a horse is going to end up 1-9, 1-10, 1-5, I'd say at the highest. I got to crack up at that comment from my man, Jordan Parks. Kaboom, double it exact. Actually, more like kapop. You know what? It's the thing nowadays, and it has been for the last couple of years for guys when they make a score. It's kablam, bang, bongo, bing. It's like a Batman freaking caption on a comic when Batman punches somebody. I don't know how to make cool sounds to draw attention to myself when I hit a winner. I don't know how to do it. Maybe some of you guys can teach me. Kaboom's pretty good, I guess. But that was more like a kapop, yeah, for sure. It's so predictable that winner was going to go 1-9. It had to happen, and wins like a 1-9 shot. You know what? I'm looking back now with some regret because it's always 2020 the hindsight, and there's no way that I could have predicted, and I didn't, that the leaders are going to be 3 abreast halfway down the backstretch, which gives the edge for second to somebody who's not involved in that half-mile skirmish. But even beyond that, stick with me here for a second, folks. I made the point and then made it again and reiterated yet again that my lucky day does not want 2 turns on dirt. Okay. Now, Suffering Succotash can get 2 turns, but no longer wants dirt. So, if they're not what they might seem in terms of exacta will pace, then what about Exhilarating Purpose, who at least can combine those 2 components? Is far off form, but can get 2 turns and is a dirt horse. Exhilarating Purpose. So maybe not something that could not have been come up with, could not have been, somebody could not have come up with. And congratulations, I had Andy Schnell. I had his comment up there where he was going to use the 8 and the 9 for second. So nice exacta, my man. The comment cracks me up. Kaboom, more like kapop. I'd have to win one hell of a lot of money before I started going blam and stuff like that in the captions and the comments, guys. A lot of money, one hell of a lot of money. It's cool though. It's really cool. It's a cool thing to do. Yeah, so maybe that's the way that the vertical should have been attacked there. Again, my lucky day can't get 2 turns on dirt. Can't do the dirt thing. Suffering Succotash can get the 2 turns, but no longer wants to do dirt. So what are we down to? Exhilarating purpose. What combines both those components? I didn't see it like that beforehand. Pretty easy after the fact to employ that reasoning. Big difference between reasons that are obvious in the aftermath, and that's what recaps are about, and reasons that were foreseeable that should have rendered the outcome predictable. Big, big difference. And I've recapped a lot of races. It's my favorite part of doing this. And one must detach what one expected to happen with what did happen. It doesn't mean just because you didn't see something coming that the reasons it happened are not apparent after the fact. It just means that maybe the outcome was not so predictable. Does that make any sense, guys? Yeah, I think it did. Third race is off turf. It was scheduled for 1 mile on grass. We're going to make it 1 mile on that Muddy Mountain, Maine. And we've got some main track customers here, some horses that sport wins on dirt. Change at Jamaica, a huge winner in the only dirt race of his life. And that's going to just minimize the price here. It's going to knock his odds way down. Judge Rules, a 10-length dirt winner over the cold weather months at Austintown. And then we've got Hot Wings, who won it a route on dirt, and Boss Me, who was a 2-time winner on dirt. So these horses have some dirt history, and successful dirt history, huh? But the obvious favorite here is going to be Change at Jamaica. Change at Jamaica's got some wet track pedigree. Smart Strike on top, AP Indy on the bottom. Not only his only dirt try, but his only wet track try was sloppy, and he rolls by 7 lengths with a 64 bar speed fake. Change at Jamaica. So I guess we could assume maybe they ran him so many times on turf. Could he still possibly prefer dirt? That would be really strange because they train him on dirt. And if they thought this horse might possibly be better on dirt, they wouldn't have run him so repeatedly on grass and not given him a dirt shot before they sold him into bondage out of Florida to come up here, Change at Jamaica. Also, just play devil's advocate here because he's going to be a short price. And you got to take the counterpoint on a horse like this and try and knock him if you can. That's your mission statement as a handicapper. Try to find merit in long shots and underbet horses and try to find faults in favorites. Failing to do that, bet the chalk with my blessing. I've done it a bunch of times. But anyways, Change at Jamaica. Off some of his better Gulfstream Park turf form, and he was a winner down there on turf. Was he not supposed to do better at 9-2 than fall apart from the quarter pole to the finish there on July the 8th? Is that ominous to you guys? His next one, I'm going to tell you, was a lot better because it was an allowance, not just in name only, but that was a good allowance field. Jeff Runco wins it with a horse that had some turf in Maryland. And Royal Salute had just won and then came back to win again. A couple of nights back, Royal Salute, right? So that was a good field and a much better effort from Change at Jamaica. But I do wonder why they never tried him on dirt in Florida. And I also still don't like that July 8th race. It makes me just a little bit queasy. Also, Change at Jamaica. I'm not going to say he's at the mercy of the pace because I think he's going to be advancing stoutly around the far turn, whether he's destined to sustain that move or not. You know, I think for some guys, when they do the boom, bang, boffo, dingo thing, when they hit one, I think that's kind of a polite way of saying I hit one. They don't want to rub in your face and say, boy, did I just score, you know? So I think it's kind of a gentlemanly way to convey to your friends you just hit a race, you know? I'm going to check the odds, and I know they're going to go low on Change at Jamaica. Very low. 6-5. Wouldn't doubt that he goes even lower. You know something that's interesting, though? Although he can make the turn move, somebody off-turf races go to the speed. It's the nature of off-turf races. And there is really not much speed in here. In fact, Jaybird, who has Hot Wings in here, the 2-horse, and we'll detail his record in a minute, and Judge Rules the 7, might be holding the speed components. Could be holding both of the speed components in this race. with that duo. So would that give Team Jaybird an advantage on Change at Jamaica with kind of a double team deal? Could it conceivably play out that way? We'll talk about that after the post parade. I'm going to step aside out of habit because I used to cut my mic while Pete brought the runners out and name the owners and the trainers and everything else because the Mountaineer Horsemen wanted to hear their names announced every single $4,000 maiden race. Interestingly, guys, both of the Jay Bernardini trainees are 3-1 right now. Hot Wings, a last out winner on turf. It was a clever score because he was full of run down the backstretch. And I think Arroyo, who sits chilly anyways, did not want to do a Whitaker and waste his horse up top. In a two-turn turf race, as Whitaker did on June the 9th there. And also, I wonder if maybe he was under orders from headquarters to let the other Bernardini horse, Mr. Business, who was a short price and loan speed on paper, go out there and set the pace. Hot Wings is capable of getting the lead here if they want it, and the lead could be really easy to come by. My question is this. Is his last race so good, and his May 17th race also pretty darn tootin' good because he prefers turf to dirt? I think he probably does, guys, because when I compare those two turf races, the two exacta runs on grass, and they're both good, Blind Eye would come back to win at Prescal. And that's always impressive. And Bosley's a grass ace. So that was a good run from Hot Wings on May the 17th. And then also July the 8th, a clever score. I compare those to his maiden win. And some horses improve after they break maiden, don't get me wrong. But really his debut score, or I should say his first score, his graduation score, can't hold a candle to those two turf efforts. So I think he might be a little better on grass. But I also think he's to be respected because I think Jaybird might have had a chalk talk in the tack room this morning and told these jocks which one he wants to send to the lead. Judge rules, does he still have speed? Made every polo winner powerful when at Mahoning in the mud back on January the 22nd, but does not run like he much possesses speed at his last couple of starts. But, and here's where it gets a little bit tricky. If you toss out his trio of turf tries there and just get back to his dirt form, in March and April at Mahoning, the figures and the caliber of the competition can almost make him the one you want here, Judge Rules. So Judge Rules is capable of beating Change at Jamaica, even off Change at Jamaica's 7-length win on dirt here on May the 24th. Judge Rules has some stuff at Mahoning on dirt that could beat that. And Hot Wings could take a tactical advantage from the inside on Change at Jamaica. So the more I talk about this race, the more I'm feeling a pass coming on. Good point. The 6 horse is only 9-2. Mountaineer doesn't even write races that cheap for non-life conditions on grass. Boy, that's the dredges. That's really, really low. I think he lost both of his dirt races by 24 lengths a pop. Plus his trainer may have been at Mountaineer before, but I don't really remember for sure. Just not much of a recent track record. And I mean, last couple of years to go on. I can't help but believe the 6 horses over bet at 4-1. No bet here for me, guys. Guys, you can ascertain all there is to know about a horse race, but that doesn't mean that all your opinions are not reflected and priced into the odds board. And I think that's what happened there. In my pre-race, I said Jay Bird's going to send one of those horses to the lead and try to get the tactical advantage on the certain favorite of the 8 horse there. And it was probably going to be Hot Wings. Also mentioned Hot Wings doesn't like the dirt a lot, I don't think. Judge Rules does like dirt. If you fall back on his most recent dirt races in Mahoney, he was a strong threat to beat Change at Jamaica. But even that was priced into the win pool with a late correction as he dropped from, I think, 4-1 or 7-2 down to 5-2. So, yeah, you can think things that, in fact, come to fruition in a race, the way it plays out, and maybe even the way it looks coming down to the wire. But does that mean you know anything the crowd doesn't know and they haven't baked into the pools? In that case, there was nothing that I knew or thought I knew that wasn't baked into the win pool there, guys. So I passed the race. Nothing surprising, maybe a little bit surprised. The Change at Jamaica was so in the muscle and moving up to the lead, but that's not an excuse. He was doing it so easily that if he were the best horse, Judge Rules would not have ground him down in that long, hard drive. Not a bad field, by the way, at least those first 2 finishers by Never Three Cheapo standards. The 6 horse was so bogus. Off the 2 dirt races and lost them by like a total of 48 lengths. My man Chris Connor said Zam. I think he's needling me with the Zam thing. And I can only repeat, man. And I read Batman comics when I was a kid. And Superman comics and The Flash and Green Lantern and stuff like that. And I can only say, again, guys, and this is in reference to the Batman comic book captions when him and Boy Wonder would punch some thug out because Batman was pretty good with his mitts, as was Boy Wonder. Should any dude strike me sufficiently hard to make a Katrango sound, I sincerely hope there's medical attention nearby for me. So to have opinions is great. To have correct opinions is better. You'll make money in the long run. But you got to be sure that you know something that's not reflected in the polls. 4th race, this was another turf original, instead dirt, Muddy Mountain, Maine. We're going 5 furlongs for a maiden $15,000 fillies and mares, huh? And number 8, Collected Mist. Collected Mist had been second, a tough beat second on turf at Indy back in November, and was 3rd last time at Belterra on turf, and opened the lead both times. We're talking about a lot of speed. And in a maiden claimer like this, going just 5 furlongs, speed's what you're looking for. And Collected Mist has got the speed in here, but seems better on turf, stops more abruptly on dirt, this Collected Mist. So there's that to consider, I would say. Kevin Monday pops up at Mountaineer. Nice guy, but he's just always in hot water for some reason or another. I can't recall many times when he was stable at Mountaineer. When there wasn't some kind of a commotion, or I didn't hear something in the back office, some of the bigger bosses talking about what are we going to do about Kevin Monday. Nice enough guy when I talked to him, though. So yeah, that's the thing. Collected Mist stops much more abruptly on dirt, although we can excuse the last quit maybe on dirt because Collected Mist did not want to go 6 furlongs and was actually topped, shaded. There were 21 4 opening quarters, so we can excuse that one, correct? You think so? And you know what? I'm looking at the previous race on dirt just to do a deep dive into your certain favorite Collected Mist here. And at Mahoney on January the 12th, Susie Q's sister, that's a horse I knew pretty well, at Acosta Special with some talent. And for Collected Mist to lead a half mile's worth in a field that included that runner under non-claiming conditions, I could have this race all but signed, sealed, and delivered by the time they hit the furlong grounds there. Would maybe have to get down and walk at that point to lose this race. Now, Chris, I'm needling you when I say you're needling me. I get a kick out of it, man. I like the back and forth. You guys don't have to talk to me with kid gloves. You know what? If you guys know how I tease with my buddies and we tease back and forth, really, we play hardball with the insults, especially on the golf course when there are no chicks around. To nice it up a little bit, my one friend, my oldest friend, I'm not sure if I've ever referred to him as anything, but you neurotic fat fuck of, and I'm nicing this up, I'm cleaning this up a lot, of questionable gender orientation. You guys feel me on that? Kind of get my drift there, guys? Yeah, so don't worry about teasing me hard because I go pretty hard too in real life. But I guess I have to observe some decorum here in the dungeon, correct? Yeah, I do. I think you guys translated every word of that, right? Because that's not the way I say it when we're on the golf course. Moronic, sissified fat fuck of questionable gender identity. So you guys can kind of translate that, can't you? Okay, let's look at some of these other possibilities. Did you guys hear that Shatner's got stage 4 cancer? This distresses me, man, because I'm a Star Trek guy, not a Star Wars guy. Screw Star Wars. Star Trek, yeah, that's me, baby. Big time. Love every one of the movies and watch them fairly frequently, too. Shane doesn't like the Star Trek pantheon, but I watch them all, man, and love them. And I was still hoping, and this is what a nutcase I am for Shatner and for Star Trek. I was still hoping they'd come up with some half-assed reason to blast him into space again in the next iteration, the umpteenth iteration of Star Trek. And what, freaking 96 years old? Get him in space again. Put him on the bridge. Appoint him the captain of the new Enterprise, and I'll buy it. I will suspend my sense of disbelief. So I was really bummed to hear about William Shatner. Stage 4 cancer, somebody told me. But anyway, so when I talked about exploring some other possibilities here, the reason Shatner popped into my mind was, what did he say to Bones? I like to think that there are, I'm not even going to try to imitate him, or should I? That staccato delivery that he has. I'd like to think that there are possibilities. I don't think shopping at Bloomie's is much of a possibility, so we're going to skip that possibility. Charthena, the 2-horse, Charthena has speed, which is the weapon of choice in races like this. And a lot of times when they come from Charlestown and Mountaineer, they can compete and compete well. But I don't think the public liked those low buyers from Charthena at Charlestown. And they knew her to be a quitter from her previous campaigning at the mountain. And the speed stout, I don't think it's ever going to work against the superior early firepower of Collected Mist, right? You're going to be Collected Mist. You're not going to do it by going with her early or attempting to top her. I think that's pretty apparent. Now, she might be weak enough on dirt to make a closer out of somebody who never closes. That is possible. Gorda. How many minutes do we have here? Yeah, Steve. Shatner was in the most iconic episode ever, The Twilight Zone, right? Where he's on the plane and sees this thing trying to rip the wing off, and it turns out he's right, even though they want to throw him off the plane or subdue him or tranquilize him or something. And he's validated. They're leading him off in a straitjacket. How many minutes do we have here? Yeah, 0 to post. We still got a couple of minutes. Gorda was actually claimed for $4,000. Claimed based on what? See, there's a lot of talk about how the new rating system, the Equibase-based conditions, are going to help the little guy, quote unquote, by cutting back on claim action, as if the bigger barns prey on the little barns and scoop up any good horse that little mom and pop outfits get their hands on, when in fact it is often the opposite at Mountaineer. When an outfit like Inman doesn't have the money all the time with the connections to go out of town and buy privately, they will simply wait for somebody like Silva or a Clounston or a Jaybird to buy a horse elsewhere, to pay the freight to get the horse to Mountaineer, and then they're the ones that drop the claim to replenish their outfits. So I think the whole theory, the whole protective theory behind the Equibase rating system conditions is kind of backwards at a track like Mountaineer. I think their reasoning is backwards. Eloquent Storm's got speed. That ain't going to work against Collected Mist. It shouldn't. Mo Breezy's 10-1, number 7. Don't chuckle too much, but sometimes the most experienced horse. And a bad maiden claimer is the horse that, by virtue of that seasoning, even losing seasoning, launches the best finish. This one goes turf to dirt, and the one placing was on dirt, huh? And gained a little ground late in an off-turf race here last June. This horse hasn't been out but one time since last August. Wow. I'll continue, number 10, 9-2, and was closing ground last time. That was a woeful affair, though, and it was run slowly at every call. I did like the 11 horse's pedigree had this proceeded on grass. I think that's a really intriguing turf pedigree. But on dirt, this horse has run twice and lost them by 42 lengths. Plus this trainer, not exactly an asset, right, with that record? So 6-5 in Collected Mist, and not unlikely to go lower. They bring the jock in tow, correct? Was there a change there? I guess no, huh? Shane and I watched a movie with Shatner in it, one of those cheesy 70s made-for-TV flicks, a horror movie, The Devil's Reign, in which Ernest Borgnine plays Satan or the head Satanist or something like that. I like those movies because they're kind of a time capsule. Those hokey, cheesy 1970s made-for-TV flicks. And not all of them were so hokey. They had some classics like Duel with Dennis Weaver. And what about the vampire classic, The Night Stalker with Darren McGavin? Those made-for-TV movies just totally rock. And they are horror genre. Gargoyles, too. Gargoyles, I would consider almost a 1970s made-for-TV classic. But we watched The Devil's Reign with William Shatner a few nights back. Going to be a lot of 8 and 10 tickets punched out there. I would not use the 2 horse here. I just wouldn't, because the style clashes with that if you're near a certain leader Collected Mist. I'd use somebody else second if I were determined to put the 8 on top and maybe go vertically here. Or perhaps you want to try and beat the 8 because she does quit more abruptly on dirt than she does on turf. Although I think I itemized a couple of races there, a couple of her dirt tries, which, if not totally excusable, could probably get her home on a healthy enough cushion going just 5 furlongs against this kind of competition. It's a strange thing when you break down horse races on camera like this, guys. Sometimes you convince yourself of things while you were talking and look at the past performances over in the purveyance of hopefully some insight. And the more I looked, the more I thought the Aders wasn't going to lose that race based on the Sister Susie Q try, who's a real runner, was a real up and comer at the time, Mahoning, deep wintertime track, and was in front at the half call. And then the other race, the most recent dirt race, was forced 21-4 and didn't even get the lead. So those races better than they looked on paper. And I think the last thing I said was on a cushion, I could maybe walk home and still win this over the final furlong. In the chat, I put Bing, not even a bong, 75 to win on a 6-5 shot. So Mark, you have a bong? I'm going to answer that question for you. No, I don't smoke dope. I don't smoke anything. I despise smoking. But I will tell you this. I started to have a pot gummy occasionally when I jacked up my knee 3 years ago, my meniscus. And I still kind of limp around on it a little bit, but it's not as bad as it was. And I'm active. I hike 2-3 miles uphill like 3-4 times a week, and I get around just fine. But I'm not playing tennis anymore, and I'm not jogging anymore, that's for sure. But as far as the bong thing goes, the pot gummies, I don't like the sensation, the way they make me feel. I can't stand it when I can't remember what I did earlier that day. And also, I shouldn't even say this, but one time I was headed home from the golf course, and I had not tallied around long enough to quite let the effects wear off. Let me put it like that. So when I'm driving home, I can see my turnoff road on Route 2, I don't know, 300-400 yards up ahead. And I'm thinking, this is taking forever. I'm never going to get to my turnoff road. Why is this taking 3 days? But I still realized in the back of my mind, dude, you were stoned. You're going to get to your turnoff road. Just chill, man, and stay cool. So since then, I have never driven under the influence of pot gummies again. And I rarely take them. I rarely do it. I don't need it to chill out or to relax. And I only do it occasionally for what is the THC effect on my knee, on my arthritic knee. So that answers your question on the bong thing, doesn't it? Now, I used to imbibe some on the simulcast show at Mountaineer. We would have fans, McMichael and I, come in and secret us some alcohol. And we didn't even know it was alcohol, mind you. And so we'd be sitting there knocking them down because you got to accommodate the fans. You can't insult them when they bring you a shot. So we were doing shots and stuff like this one time on the show. And I'm looking over, and Michael's out of it, and I'm barely in it. I mean, I am barely still in it, baby. And it got real dicey coming down in the last couple of races, what was going on there, what was going to happen. But when I drink too much, which isn't often, the only thing it does is it makes me more talkative and even more of a know-it-all, if you can even believe that, as if that's even possible. It makes me think I know everything. The world needs to hear everything I have to say. And I can't stop talking. So I know what you're thinking. What's the difference between sober Mark Patterson and drunk Mark Patterson? Probably not much, guys. It does make me paranoid, Code Brown, but it kind of makes me fuzzy. Like I can't remember what I ate earlier in the day or what I had for dinner the day before. And I don't like that sensation. I just don't. It doesn't necessarily chill me out as much as it puts me in a fog, like kind of a fuzz. It does help the arthritic knee, though. So I do occasionally consume a pot gummy. Two drinks minimum, says Stephen Majewski. About 4 beers, and I start feeling good. If I drink 6 or 7, I will not stop talking and trying to convince somebody how much I think I know. Fifth race, this was supposed to be 7.5 on the turf. Instead, we're making it 1 mile. The 7.5s go to a mile on the mountain main, which is muddy tonight. This is an allowance, never 3 for fillies and mares. And we've got a field of 5 in here. And you can make case for several of these for certain. The favorite, I'm pretty sure, is going to be Fiamma from the inside because she's the one with the upside, it looks like, Fiamma. She has won 2 of her last 3. She is 2 out of 3 over the mountain main and 2 out of 3 on dirt. She has never seen a claiming price. So they've always been kind of optimistic about her. She went for $45,000 at auction. Fiamma, this is her second 2-turn try. Now, she flubbed the first 2-turn assignment. I'm not going to knock her for that because she was not seasoned. That was as a second-time starter. And it was synthetics, which she might not like, and stiffer competition to boot. In fact, I like that race, and I'll tell you why. Not all stretch-out sprinters, even from 5.5 out to a mile flash speed, even when you would think they should. But Fiamma does have speed tendencies at 2 turns, and I dig that under Negron from the inside post position here. Now, Fiamma took so much support that wasn't merited on paper. It just could not have been because that was a fairly good-looking field on April the 13th. I think that was barn money. I think they knew what she was going to do, Fiamma. And then we're going to fast forward to July the 12th there, and Fiamma was steadied back at the break several lengths worth. It was up pretty bravely. Now, the race set up for somebody to rally who turned out to be Fiamma, but still, she was clear lengths the best there, was Fiamma. And I think it's pretty obvious that she's got the most upside in this field. No question about that, Fiamma. So I think the race has to be run through her from the 1 post, considering she probably gets a scent from the girl. And she did flash speed. This is an important consideration when she went a route of ground. Now, if you want to dig a little deeper and look at her pedigree, it is not a route pedigree. Jimmy Creed, his average get, their average winning distance is less than 7 furlongs, 6.5 furlongs. And her mama was an outright pig with a 4 for 73 record who ran here and couldn't win. But if you dispense with the pedigree, then Fiamma is a horse you want to look a lot at. Now, if you're going to go by the old maxim, by the old handicapping maxim, never take a favor to do something that horse has not attempted before or pulled off before, then you're not going to like Fiamma because the distance adds an element here. And Fiamma is 2-1, and I think not unlikely to go lower. Favorite right now is Aurora's Music, who I loved on July the 19th. I think he even dubbed her a near lock there. She didn't run like a lock. I still think My Lucky Day likes turf better. And Aurora's Music looked like the lone speed. She gets fronted, didn't run anything like she had. Went second with a 67 speed figure. Mahoney in an allowance 3 weeks before Christmas, or in a speed fighting allowance win here back in October against Miss Jane Planner, who's an exacta machine in non-claiming company. So doesn't seem to be that horse anymore, Aurora's Music. And the one route race I can see in sight on her hard copy form does not move me much because it was a slow race, and No Age Bad Girl who beat her is strictly turf, man. So I don't know about her current form, Aurora's Music, and I'm not sure about her at the distance either, even as Fiamma does assume the role of favoritism, and this was inevitable, folks. Sister Sola on the outside, 6-1. Sister Sola used to go to the front and squander those leads. She couldn't lead all the way. She likes turf. At 2 turns, she couldn't lead all the way, so they got cute and rated her back, and it's worked twice now with Sister Sola. But she is a natural-born dirt hater, and those are the kind you don't want when these races come off the turf. You don't want that. I'm a little bit curious as to whether they're going to say the heck with it. Since we're on dirt, we don't want kickback. We don't want that around here. We're going to go ahead and use her natural speed, which she still possesses, which they have kind of wrangled out of her, and successfully in the process for those 2 wins on turf. Good enough for me, number 7. The 2 for 31 thing does not bespeak stamina. And this is a strange case of a horse that may have 2-turn stamina on dirt and synthetics. I'm sorry, on turf and synthetics. Don't want to draw too fine a line, but on turf, am I getting too intense with my analysis here, guys? Because that's really what I am. I can talk movies. We can shoot the breeze. We can be jolly good buddies, which we are for sure. But when you get right down to the nitty gritty, I'm a hardcore horse racing analyst. So good enough for me. I think it's a little bit suspect at 2 turns on dirt. I don't like the box score, the lifetime record there. Although there could be some things happening up front to set it up for somebody who become a late move. A Sip and Speed, number 6, was entered for main track only and does show a route win The margin's inflated because she fouled the heck out of the third finisher there, shut off that rival and cost that rival second. Otherwise, the margin would have been much smaller. Sip and Speed has been on top of the pre-stretch in her last 3 route engagements. So she's going to make some kind of an interior move here and make her presence felt. And I can tell you this, I'm not so sure she hasn't tailed off a bit from her best form over the cold weather months, especially the way she threw it in full retreat at just 5.5 furlongs late on July the 8th. But I think she was victimized by a potent anti-rail bias on July the 19th because she's hugging wood all the way around there, or else she would have been a lot closer there at the finish. So she may not be quite as off form as you think, guys. Hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm not going to manufacture passionate opinions when I possess none. Not a race I'm going to bet. Good luck to you guys. Was that too intense, the way I broke that race down? Because I can dial it down a bit, guys. Fiamma passes a route test, but not without some anxious moments. She was really rank there. But I think mainly because Negron put an idiotic ride on her. Rarely can a jock stage a fist fight with his own mount and still get his picture snapped in the winner's circle. And that's exactly, he tore into Fiamma right out of the gate. And the reason is really obvious. I can tell you how these guys think, these jockeys, and maybe these were orders from the trainer too. The previous time she went around a ground, they didn't care that it was on synthetics. They didn't care that she didn't have the seasoning to get a distance of ground. They saw where she went to the lead and she stopped. So they come into this with a mindset, ooh, we can't get the lead. No, take her back, Jock. Take her back, Jock. So the result of that is he's got a fight on his hands. She's ferocious. You can barely slow her down enough to put her behind the 25 opening stanza. And the horse in front of her is just walking. They deserve to lose for that idiocy in terms of strategy with Fiamma, but she's just that much the best, guys. Hopefully she'll learn to rate too at some point, although I still suspect she's probably better going short, Fiamma, but did pass the route test there, the most upside of that field by far. And if he had not just strangled her and jacked her jaw 6 or 7 times through the early stages there, she's going to win by more than twice that margin, Fiamma. Sip and Speed told you guys went against a bias last with an inside trip and was closer to good form than it may have appeared, and was on a short list there of horses that had won at around and ground on dirt. Idiotic ride on Fiamma. Next race is pretty deep. This is a high action event. For this lowly A condition, mixed, never 4, or known as a 2 in 2026. These are designated by the B for beaten race. It's ancient racing office terminology that I never liked. I never saw the purpose of it. 1 mile, the distance, and I counted 5 last out winners in here, and several by huge margins, and most of the rest by comfortable margins, huh? So, yeah, that's kind of impressive. A lot to sink our teeth into here, huh, guys? And you guys feel free to text me at 304-224-4339, and not just when I'm on the air, but I am a night owl, too, along with Little Bear. So you can text me at night, and we can shoot the breeze. If I don't get back to you, it's because I can't, and I will eventually, I promise. I answer all my texts. Handle on You, number 2, opened as a favorite. Vasquez, man, his horses get bet like crazy. And I guess the crowd feels like, the money feels like Handle on You was flattered earlier tonight by the clear-cut win from Hyper Awakening in the opener, who was second to Handle on You. So there's that. That was by far Handle on You's best fig at the mountain, though. She's never run that well here before. So I'm skeptical if she can come back and reprise that effort. Bankbuster, number 3. Bankbuster took a notion last time, baby. After I watched that opener, on June the 14th. I think I put the thought out here on my broadcast. This track's got to be either rail biased, pro speed, or both. Except it turned out it wasn't. And usually when a horse like her wins by this ungodly margin, it's because the grain's in her favor in some way or another. But it wasn't. She did that on a square, bank buster, which is not to say she's going to get another loose lead, because that's what she needs to perform big, bank buster. So the pivotal question with bank buster, I think, is, and this is not easy to answer. Number 6, I'm on edge. I'm on edge last time. Vied right from the gun almost to win at 5.5. And that's the second straight sprint win from I'm on edge. Sometimes horses like I'm on edge flash sharp route speed, but not always. Just because they press the pace hard at a sprint distance does not necessarily translate to two-turn speed, because two-turn speed is a different knack. And I am continually amazed, and have been for years, at how often a proven route speed, horses that have the knack to get away quickly, and our milers at Mountaineer that start close to the turn and with minimum energy go out there and establish command without being used or asked a lot. How often are they front seemingly fast or stretch out sprinters without breaking a sweat? Which is not to say that I'm on edge will not put Bankbuster to test early, which would, I think, spoil Bankbuster's chances here. I was looking for something else like that on her form and had to go all the way back to 2024 to find a race like that when she won the starter in Ohio, Bankbuster. She's not that old, and if they got her going good right now, last race could be for real. But again, the catalyst, and you guys are all seasoned players, at least most of you, and you're well aware that she's only going to run like that when she's in control of her own destiny, guys, and doesn't have anybody in her field of vision. And a candidate to enter her field of vision early and rather rudely would certainly be the 6th horse here. Tough call in that regard. 2 of the last out winners I don't like. Number 4, Best Virginia, because that was her return race after November, so she's got to bounce after that hard drive. The bounce for any newbies that are in the house tonight is the term for a horse that regresses second time off the bench after a grueling return to the races. You know what? It's come into wider usage, the term bounce, and I don't like it. The term bounce came to describe any regression in performance on the heels of a snappy effort. And that's not what it means in its purest form. In its purest form, it only describes regression in second start back off the bench after a strenuous return to action. And when I used to do some written analysis for the Daily Racing Form, we were admonished by the Dean of Handicappers, the editor of Handicappers, to not do that shit, to not use the bounce except in its purest form and context. And for Best Virginia to regress here would be bounce in its purest form and context. I don't like the buyer either, nor the fact that Vintage Sparkle, who was second to her, came back and completely tanked last night, just tanked woefully. Plus, if you need one more reason, I'm not going to dwell on her much longer, the race set up for her to rally. Best Virginia. Myra Fleener, she's an obvious pitch here. Myra Fleener, just a no-chance runner, I think. And I'm going to put my banner up. I almost forgot about this. You won't see me critiquing the Mountaineer odds too often in races that come off the turf. I'm not going to do that because obviously the turf line doesn't apply. And sometimes these races are riddled with scratches that it's just not valid for me to cherry pick what I perceive to be misconceived price points on the morning line. But I've got a couple here, and I think 1 or 2 of them in this race. And I'm going to put it up because I went to the trouble to make my pretty banner. And there it is. Bankbuster 9-1 will be lower in the 6th race. Crafty Conquest 5-1 will be lower in the 7th race. And You Were Awesome was 5-2. Are you kidding me? You Were Awesome. It was 80-1 last time. Same bad time, same bad channel, continuing on the Cape Crusader theme. Is it going to be 5-2 tonight? Off one single wake-up performance with like an 0 for 190 record over the mountain main? Get the F out of here. Are you kidding me? So there's my banner in which I cherry pick morning line prices that I don't think are at all accurate. If you guys find that useful, tell me. If you don't, I'll discontinue it. I don't do it to critique or criticize the Mountaineer Lines Maker. I really don't. I don't even know who does the lineup out there. But I want to bring my experience, my vast experience as a professional odds maker into play here in the dungeon. I'm on edge, another last out winner. This horse shows no route anywhere. And at the very least, I think would have to try to get the lead and thus be in for a fight against Bankbuster. So I may not be that high on her. I'm on edge in here. I think she's probably going to be higher than that morning line. Will she not? We're covering the last out winners. I think we have already run through that crew, right? Handle on You and Bankbuster and Best Virginia and I'm on edge. Myra Flainer. Please, slow race, hideous field, quirky horse, tough to predict when she's going to fire. She'd be a real shocker here. Doesn't have to be a last out winner. They just have the non-last out winners outnumbered here, guys. The Shoe Lady, I think, could be mildly interesting. Let me eyeball the paddock while I keep talking to you guys about this race. Yeah, I do have a perfect record, Jim from Arizona. I'm pretty careful about when I criticize a morning line price point, and I'm not a modest guy, and I'm sure you guys can handle this from me because I respect knowledge and don't think the fact that I'm considered kind of a Sharpie makes everybody else stupid. But I'm well qualified to critique the modern morning lines maker because obviously I know a hell of a lot more than that person does about how to construct and fashion a morning line. So yeah, I'm undefeated in my misconceived price points feature here on the Dungeon, guys. The Shoe Lady. What's the price on the Shoe Lady? The Shoe Lady's 3-1. Taking the Panhandle Plunge all the way to the bottom is winless since being claimed for $10,000 there. I had a really good win record at the time. In fact, after that win was 9-4-20, incredible win record for $200,000. The Shoe Lady still has, and has some excuses filtered in there to some of those losses subsequent to that claim. Tried to close on a strongly speed biased track, and that race was wired very early in the meet, 1 week into the meet on April the 19th. Doesn't want 5.5. And then next time, you're not going to gain much on Miss Fussy Pants when she actually gets the lead because she's a stout finisher and a total pro. So I like those efforts from the Shoe Lady. I'm going to throw the turf tryout. That was experimental. So we made a lot of excuses for her. I really can't tell you much about her most recent race, except she drops considerably in class here. But I will tell you the Shoe Lady, if she's okay and not badly off, which she might be off her most recent performance, but if she's well met on the drop here and sound, I can tell you she's got the cred, and she is better than at April the 19th and mid-May. Form might make it look because nothing went her way in either of those outings, guys. I do not understand Handle on You being the outright favorite here. I guess somebody's got to be chalked. And Handle on You might be perceived to have a nifty style. Some handicappers, position handicappers, just bank on the obvious right off the bat. We see two speed prospects, I'm on edge and Bankbuster. So they assume there's going to be some battle royal between those two for the lead. Where so many times we have exactly two speeds. One of them is off form, one of them misses the break, or one of them is rated back, or one of them is just faster than the other one. So don't assume there's going to be action up front because you have two seemingly evenly matched. And this speed fighter brewing might be hard to read. Speedball's in the race, but I think the running style on Handle on You is maybe part of the allure here. Plus, Vasquez seems to have this devout fan club. Some of my best scores have been made when I don't see the race shape quite the same way the public does. When you can go contrarian and go against the way the tote board seems to believe the race is going to play out through the early and mid stages, then you're kind of onto something when it comes to scores. I hate to sound like the proverbial broken record, but another race I do not intend to bet. Boy, did that race play out with lots of moving parts. It seemed like a 5 or 6 act play, didn't it? And a scintillating finish. Normally, I would not attribute that kind of heart to Handle on You, who got off at 3-1 there. Vasquez, his horses seem to be on tilt right now. And again, so do the Ramjeet runners, as Carla took. Had a full head of steam, and then maybe Hangs a little bit late, but maybe Pagan came out the race ride. Barrios just a little bit there. I'm not so sure it was on purpose, but his mount did drift out and make light contact with the 8-horse, and it could have made a little bit of that difference as to which nose was going to get to the wire first. It was a well-timed move on the part of Pagan, too, with Handle on You. The race really didn't unfold quite the way I expected. I thought it might be the 6 out there entertaining the 3, but instead it was an insanely ridden Best Virginia. Used as sacrificial speed to go out there. That's just insanity. I don't get it. I don't understand it. On top of that, the jock takes this cocky look under his arm with about 4.5 furlongs to go, maybe 5/8 to go, looking back. And when jocks do that, it's almost like kind of a cocky signal. Well, I've got the horse who's next to me. I've got that horse's number. My only concern is who's behind me. No, jock, you got much bigger concerns than that. The wire's a long way away, and you've been outdueled after insanely sending your mount out there, jock. So high action race, exciting race there. Handle on You wins it. And this is a horse that's lost the lead from the 8th pole to the finish, like maybe 3 times on form. So I don't expect that kind of grit from a coming in 3 for 26 runner. But Handle on You, I thought, won bravely. And that was very well ridden in a couple of regards by Pagan there. Handle on You.
Denoto.
We've only had one front-running winner tonight. That was a 6-5 shot who opened this humongous lead in a 5H race. Beyond that, most of the races tonight have played out not so much in favor of speed, as we've seen contested leads, but not always contested leads. You've had some strong contenders out there on top without exerting a lot of energy that still suffered defeat in the late stages. And beyond that, I think every winner tonight, most of the winners, and certainly the place horses, have been buffered out, well out from the inside. So I'm not saying the negative rail is again reared its ugly head, but it's kind of going through my mind a little bit that speed hasn't been so hot tonight. And I could be misperceiving that. And I'm not certain enough to factor that in at this point to my wagers. It's 2-phased to assess a bias, 3-phased, in fact. You want a real-time observation because you want to be first out of the blocks if you see a trend taking hold. And then away from the heat of battle, you want to review the charts and look at the replays and make a final decision on what your bias notes are going to be for the race card. And then you want to watch if they're correct by how horses come back to perform in their next outings. 3 phases to spotting, recording, and then confirming any kind of bias, either pertaining to running style or path. And why I'm going through all this is because Crafty Conquest looks like a really likely winner in race number 7, but speed hasn't been so hot tonight. This is the low of the low. Now winners in 25, 26. We used to go back 12 months. They're doing us one better. They're going back like 19 months. Did I count that correctly? So this is a very restrictive condition. The recent number horse is Crafty Conquest. The current form horse is Crafty Conquest. And the lone speed on paper looks like Crafty Conquest, right? Is it going to be that simple? I would not let the Barnes record on the year deter me had I planned to bet on Crafty Conquest, because Jessica Pizzurro and Darren Heinrich, and they're an item. They're good horse people, and they know what they're doing. Just have not had a good roll this year. It seems like they keep the same stock on hand year after year after year, so they don't have many opportunities to win. But I don't think they're going to squander this opportunity with Crafty Conquest because they're confident, believe me. The Crafty Conquest, it seems like, is embroiled in this eternal speed battle that never ends. Just a form of living hell for a once-the-lead racehorse like Crafty Conquest. And a horse like Crafty visits that fate upon himself because he's never quick enough to clear. It seems like somebody always goes up there and hooks him or fronts him. So you would be advised to look hard for who that opponent might be in this race because it seems like somebody always pops up to do exactly that when in against Crafty Conquest. Our Rescue 5 hasn't won in years, hasn't had the lead in years, but was only 3 behind a rapid first quarter last time at a shorter distance laid down by a very rapid leader. Heroes Man, that could translate to some speed here. I think it is within the bounds of possibility. And you got Barrios on the one horse moving pictures. I know what you're thinking. He's not showing much speed, but Barrios lives to get speed from runners. And moving pictures has run at shorter distances in 3 of his last 4, which means tonight's 6 furlong distance at a race without much speed could enhance his early look a little bit. Even so, Crafty Conquest looks like a horse who's going to be able to control his own destiny here. I ridiculed the price, the morning line price on You Were Awesome. Number 8, who's 0 for 25 and counting at the mountain, and only one exacta run from those freaking 25 tries. And was 80 to 1 last time. And I'm going to tell you the story about that race. That race was full of stone cold closers. In fact, so riddled with nothing but closers that Osprey, who usually runs from the back, was actually in front there on a very pedestrian opening stanza. So You Were Awesome. He's never going to get the lead again. Man, that opportunity knocked for him last time. You Were Awesome. And he didn't answer the door. And he's not going to be 5 to 2 here. That's just a ridiculously set morning line price point. He's 7 to 2, which surprises me. And I'm going to miss on one of these sooner or later, guys. But he's not going to be as low as 5 to 2. The second favorite to Crafty Conquest, who's the certain post on chalk here, and he's getting good and warmed up there. I think they plan to throw the gauntlet down to this field. Is number 5 Irish Heat Wave. Does that money think this is a turf race? With that 7 turf win history for 400,000 in grass earnings, was this horse not supposed to do a little better? And those 3 local turf tries, and check out his dirt wears. He lost by 21 lengths at 2 to 1. So we've been there, done that with this horse on dirt before. He's 10 years old now, and these turf horses get to a point where they refuse to lift the hoof on dirt. He'd be a surprise to me, a real surprise. Number 6, Southern Sense, has got a good local win record, not bad, but it's getting worse by the start. Couldn't close much ground last time, was way behind Crafty Conquest. Crafty Conquest ran big without the lead. And Crafty Conquest figures to maybe get the front here on paper. The previous race wasn't bad from Southern Sense. It's his best speed figure in quite some time. And that winner was a prohibitive favor to win Gate to Wire. So if Southern Sense could conjure that effort up again, then he could get a piece of this. Number 2, Gilligan. I've cashed a ticket or 2 on this horse, but it's been a while. It's been a minute. He was a Clouston runner here a good while ago. I watch Gilligan's Island once in a while. But I'm stupefied that the salty 300-pound man of the sea, the skipper, Alan Hale, one of the pygmies that are on the island, capture them. And they got him prisoner. They got one pygmy. And the pygmy's sword is drooping down like to touch the ground, and he's like 2 feet from the skipper. And the skipper never busts a move. Are you kidding me? Be a man, skipper. Be a man. Most logic would seem to dictate I make a win bet on the 3-horse, but my spidey sense is telling me the grain could be against him. I'm not sure about that. And he just finds ways to lose and get hooked when he seems to be the controlling speed. And if I am correct in smirking at the morning line price point on the 8-horse, you were awesome. I'm not correct by much. I simply said he'd be higher than 5-2. In fact, much higher, and he's not much higher than 5-2. He is 7-2 with his over 25 local record and only one exacta run, and that was at 80-1. Good luck here, guys. Back in a couple. Crafted Conquest was a nice place to visit tonight. In fact, I did, but I wouldn't want to live there. That looked like all he had. There ain't no mo. A really bad field. And he had things his way out there in the engine to win Crafted Conquest. And no Jim from Arizona. And that's who Jacob Bellis, 20, is. Good friend of mine. And we've communicated for quite some time, never met in person. You compelled me to make money there because I was on the fence whether to make a bet on Crafted Conquest or not, who I was pretty clear about in my pre-race that I considered by far the likeliest winner in there. And I got to watching the odds on You Were Awesome so closely, so intently, because, I predicted on my big splashy banner that he would be much higher than 5-2. And I kept watching closely because I do have a perfect record when I draw attention to those misconceived price points. And when I saw I was going to be wrong, a little light went off in my head and thought, if this effing horse is 5-2, that's dead money. Because he had no chance. I mean, I don't know what I could have done before the race. Maybe stick my head through your computer monitors and tell you this horse has no chance. He's a pig. I think I pretty much did that because not only was You Were Awesome over 25 at the Mountain with just one placing, and I further elucidated that placing was bogus last time because it was an historically sluggish field of 6 furlong horses. That was led by a closer, and he will never see a similar scenario again. So he's one time on a ticket from 25. Jim from Arizona, you put money in my pocket, man, because I'm watching the odds so closely. And when I see this hog is that low at 5-2, You Were Awesome, I'm thinking, I got to get some of that money. I don't care what the price is now on my 3 horse. I know there's dead money on the 8 horse, so this brings me into action. So I did make a win bet on that gate to wire winner, that front running winner. But again, nice place to visit tonight, but I wouldn't want to live there. Less than impressive in victory there, guys. So thank you, Jacob Bellis. So we're down to one race, correct? This is all we have left, and there ain't no mo. Never 4 or non-winners twice in 2026. We're going a mile. And this is an interesting race to me because a lot of handicappers look for the speeds first off when they begin to pick a race apart. And the two obvious get the lead candidates here. The two jocks that are going to try are Garcia on Krug and Tapara on My Two Aunt Jones because they both went all the way on top to win at the meet. And they've both done that in the past also. So that's the running style. Certainly on Krug and also on My Two Aunt Jones, who was pretty game last time to drop back behind the pace down the backstretch and then come again. But basically, this is a horse that gets sent pretty hard into the first turn. Now, these two horses aren't all that quick. They don't have a lot of dash. They are both what I would term industrial strength speeds. If you give them the lead, they'll take a mile, but they can't go very quickly and still be comfortable. The thing about this pair is they could knock heads and still live to tell about it. They are that determined in tandem. Krug is a soft pace specialist, but if he just laps on that leader, then he is brave enough to keep trying and trying and trying. And it's the same with My Two Aunt Jones. So if these two go out there on terms and maybe kind of a powder puff speed fight and kind of a fake thing to where both horses have something in reserve and both horses like to go mano-a-mano and keep trying. So I wouldn't necessarily predict any kind of a pace fold here, simply because we have two pretty much evenly matched speeds signed on for this race. Now, if they do happen to go mano-a-mano, then maybe the advantage goes to Beachwalker. Beachwalker beat nothing on his drop to $3,200 there in June. But Vasquez is really live right now with his horses. It seems like they're on tilt, man. And Beachwalker came back, and I thought ran a lot better, even though he was second in his next one, on a considerable class hike into a higher spot than this. And on top of that, nothing went his way as he's a shooter who can be very formidable when he gets a soft lead. Just let him all the way in. Nobody was going to get near. He's a shooter who is wind type and big race capable when things play his way on the engine. So I actually grade that outing even higher than I do Beachwalker's 10-length win. And Beachwalker is a horse that you want to think long and hard about here because he's a prime win candidate in this race. No question about that. Krug has won by some big margins. When he's got it going on, he's got it going on. I don't think he likes turf. So I kind of like his last race. 7/8, he's not a 7/8, a quick kind of front runner. So he's kind of behind the 8 ball. There was only turf win, was in a novelty condition. No one was ever on grass spot. I think last year or the year before. So I think he's way better on dirt. And I also think that performance could stand him in good stead to come right back and run well again on this Mountain Maine, which he likes so much, Krug. And Krug is a horse, again, who doesn't necessarily have to clear and cut over on My Two Hand Jones to perform here, because he likes to lap on whoever's on top or take some heat and keep trying, for sure. Another horse in good form right now is Train and Trust. And Train and Trust had the allowance for him at Mahoning and then dropped down to win at 2-1 there, coming off the turf, which I don't think he likes a whole lot there. So getting back over to dirt and taking the panhandle plunge made the difference for him. I don't like the way this horse that kind of grinds and goes at one pace lost most of that 4-length lead coming down to the wire last time. I don't dig that at all. And I thought it was kind of an inspired ride, and hush my mouth for saying that about Renzo Diaz, who used to be persona non grata and untouchable in the far ends of the jocks room. Used to sit around in the wintertime and hope the other jocks called off because of a frozen track, and he can maybe pick up $54 to ride one in the nightcap. But he put a good ride on Train and Trust as they were going kind of slowly, and he makes a really good turn move there, inside horses, Train and Trust, because the hole was left open by Wings of God there, and that was a fairly deep field. But he got a great trip there. I'm not sure I see more of the same in store here for Train and Trust. And when they struggle that hard to win, usually, especially a non-life winner, jumping into open competition, you better get some value, because he may not be the likeliest of repeat winners here, guys. So there's kind of my quick once through of what is going on here. I'm going to shut the mechanism down for the night and go upstairs and catch some dinner, because my wife, is a rare treat for Little Bear and I. She's off again. She's not on duty at the nearby medical center as an RN. So I think on the menu tonight, we have got turkey breast and stuffing, baby. So envy me, please. By all means, envy me, guys. And before I sign off, I want to thank you guys for making the scene. Consider this your dungeon just as much as it is mine. We can be ourselves in here and speak our minds. And said a lot of times, because I mean it, you guys are my viewers, you're my friends. And with that said, I will catch you about 15 minutes to first post on Sunday with some rain in the forecast, by the way, so be careful about looking them over with grass in mind. I guess that's it for tonight. Mark Patterson out.